inviting me. I'm just so happy I don't have to follow Alma Adams or someone like that, because on the 2016 campaign trail, as we went campaigning, especially here in the South Charlotte area, I was always after Alma Adams. But then I got put behind our new Supreme Court Justice
Mike Morgan.
Mike Morgan. Is it Mike Morgan? Oh my goodness! Has anyone ever heard him speak?
No.
Oh, he brought the house down. He's just an incredible speaker. But once again, I want to thank everyone for being here. And yes, I am Christian Cano. Good afternoon for everyone. And thank you for having me, and thank you for your interest in our continued campaign efforts in bringing neighbors together for our new 8-county 9th Congressional District in 2018. My name is Christian Cano, and I was honored to be your 2016 Democratic nominee for Congress for our 9th Congressional District, which stretches from South Mecklenburg, Union County, Anson County, Richmond County, Scotland County, Robeson County, Bladen County, and Cumberland County. So we've got a huge district. We are here today to thank everyone for your support and your trust that you gave us during our last election cycle, and to reinforce our early decision to continue fighting for the neighbors in our region as we give our all-out efforts to retire Robert Pittenger. And also I knew that name would get some reaction. And to create a firewall between the buffoonery of President 45 and our families in 2018. Let me tell you what we did last time and why this time is going to be different. Without sharing our complete strategy, because we got to keep some things secret so the opposition doesn't know exactly what we're doing, we stepped up to the plate to face Robert Pittenger. He ran opposed in 2014, and of course we could not allow this to happen again.
That's right.
So I made a personal promise to our Democratic Party here in Mecklenburg County. I said to our county chairperson, I promised I would support whoever decided to run against him, just like I did against Ed Driggs, who voted against our common sense update of our Charlotte non-discrimination ordinance in 2015 that impacted the dignity of many of our families. And as you may recall, members of our Precinct 69 personally held several meetings trying to recruit someone from our neighborhood, and we ended up recruiting Chris Turner to run against Ed Driggs. And she gave him one heck of a challenge and has forever changed our South Charlotte landscape. So like I said, I was going to just sit by and let someone, I wasn't going to sit by and just let someone like Robert Pittenger run unopposed again with as much stake, and was looking for someone who had the courage to run against him in 2016. As we started to enter the 2016 election cycle and everyone continued to remain on the sidelines, I kept my word. And I announced that I would take him on for all of our families. We made this decision even before the redistricting happened, when we were almost an R+12 situation in the summer of 2015. If you're not familiar with Representative Pittenger, and I probably don't have to say this, he was the one who said the racist comments about our Charlotte protesters last fall, saying that they were jealous of white people, and recently told everyone to move to states if they did not like their health care coverage. This is a representative that we currently have in the 9th Congressional District, and it's completely unacceptable. Nobody gave us a chance in a red district, and with an opponent with a lot of money. And during the last election cycle, we focused none of our energy on fundraising. Because the reality is, I come from the real world of business as a professional leader and consultant in the hospitality industry, and I'm an operations guy. I'm not a sales guy. But I know in politics, the reality is, as Daryl knows, you have to have money. You have to have money to get your message out, to buy your signs, to hire a competent staff, and frankly, that's just the culture that we have in our political industry today. So we ran when no one else stepped up for the Democratic nomination, with everything we could and with such little means against a tough opponent. We got the highest percentage of votes among Democratic congressional challenges in North Carolina in 2016. Now, what that means is that the people who raised hundreds and thousands of dollars in District 8 and District 10, we still got more percentages than they did, even with all the money they had. Why? Because we had a winning message, it resonated, but we just didn't have the means to spread it to the 8 counties and the markets that we needed to get over the top. And we were flooded by presidential messages, Senate messages, and of course, thank goodness, by Governor Cooper's message, who got him elected in 2016. We knew from the get-go that we had to run smarter, we had to run leaner, and more strategic. And we had to run a very untraditional campaign in 2016. But because of what we did, and all of us did, in 2016, the Democratic Congressional Committee, the DCC is what we call them, has now put our district on a flip list almost immediately after the 2016 results started to get analyzed. What that means is they now acknowledge what we have felt during our own campaign efforts, that our district can be flipped from red to blue. And thanks to what we did with no resources and little help, we've accomplished that. After President 45's election in November, many of us slept very late the day after. We knew that there was too much at stake to do the easy thing and just lick our wounds and go back to our normal carefree lives. But we didn't, because there's too much at stake for each one of our families. We took a few days off and immediately started our campaign efforts again, even before the DCC named us a flip district. Now, we're going to have the backing now, and we're also going to have the means. But of course, it's just no longer us. We are fully aware, even before the 2016 election, that our efforts would awaken others and that we would have laid the groundwork to highlight the GOP's weaknesses in 2018. I'm not naive, and we're not naive. We knew and we know that there are other candidates who would see our success and would start to come out of the woodworks and say, I can run, I can win, Cano did it, so now I can get 43% like he did, or even more, and I can raise millions of dollars. Well, that's why our strategy was to highlight our successes and highlight the flip district status immediately. We did this so that way we could pull out any possible competition, and quite honestly, we wanted to see, and pardon my language, we wanted to see who would poop or shit off, I apologize. We wanted to see who would poop and get off the pot. Also, we wanted to see who could possibly be Pittenger's opponent in the GOP primary and put them immediately on the defensive early on. And I think we can all agree, once again, our strategy has worked and is working. But here's the thing. We have spent, and we will continue to spend, the last 2 years traveling the district, talking to neighbors, being involved in the Democratic Party, working for advocacy issues like Move On, like Indivisible, like Black Lives Matter, like immigration, all of these issues that we have been involved in even before I made a decision to run, women's issues. And we're fighting now even harder, and we're fighting and we're resisting. And that is unmatched. No one is jumping in now. No one that is jumping in now or is thinking about jumping in from either party is going to be at the level that our campaign is at this moment. And you might be saying, well, I don't know who you are. That's okay. That's our job, to convince you and to earn your trust and support for 2018. But there are people that know us, and there are people that already back us once again in 2018. We earned 140,000 votes and endorsements from all 8 counties down to the hundreds of precincts within our district. That's a pretty good start. We held Pittenger to under 200,000 votes for the first time ever. And we know that our 9th congressional district is winnable for us and for our neighbors. But why support us in the primary? Well, that's what we need for you to do. To continue our resistance to President 45, and that's why I'm asking for you today to consider trusting us and supporting us again in 2018. Our general election is only 18 months away, and our primary is less than a year away. We are already running, and I'm telling you why. As I said, we ran in 2016, we stepped up to the plate when no one else was. We ran below the radar, not telling anyone what our strategy was, or allowing others to, and we also allowed others to underestimate us. We don't mind others thinking that we don't know what we're doing, because the more they do, the more our opposition does it. Listen, I didn't spend 20 years in the hospitality business as a professional consultant and a hotel leader at some of our nation's best hotels, flying around the country above the radar. I did it below the radar. When no one does that in the real world of business. And in politics, if you let people know what your strategy is, you're a fool. Traveling the district and campaign has given us the knowledge unmatched by any other candidate, and it makes it clear to you that I'm not an opportunist. We are fighting for you, and not just for my political gain. We know that we need to rebuild infrastructure. That's something that we talked about the first day that I made a decision to run for office. We know that we have families in all of our counties that are suffering from flooding from Hurricane Matthews, and that's completely unacceptable. We know that we need to protect our health care. Robert Pittenger voted for Trump Care, which would have taken away 43,000 people in our district alone, and 24 million people across our country. 43,000 out of 500,000 citizens. That's about 10% of our district. We all know someone that will lose health care. We know that we need to raise the minimum wage. If you work 40 hours a week, you shouldn't be living in poverty. You shouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck. We need to create a path to citizenship. And one of the most important things we need to do is protect our neighbors of color. Let's be honest. We are all victims of institutional racism and ageism. And on a day-to-day basis, as Congressman Pittenger helped point out to us with his comments, we know that that's unacceptable in 2017 and any time, but especially now. As you can see, I'm Latino. And I know what it's like to be discriminated against. It wasn't until I actually ran for Congress that I actually started to feel the impact of institutional racism, both within my own party and within groups who were supposed to be fighting for my own equality. Although it's not new to me, and I have fought it and I have won over the last 20 years in the hotel business, admittedly, it still hurts. Not because I can't handle it. It hurts because I know that there are people, young people, who maybe not have the high profile that I do. Maybe didn't have the success in business that I've had. Maybe live with their family, live out in the rural areas. And those are the people that I hurt for, because their words, they feel, can only be whispered. And I'll be darned if I stop fighting against haters. I've always followed my World War II grandfather's example of standing up and continuing to fight to ensure equality for everyone. As a gay man in America, I know what we need to continue to fight, because all humans deserve equal treatment, opportunity, and that's why I'm running for Congress and asking for your support. So thank you very much.